My, how the tides have changed. Now the Democrats are wanting to shut down the government. Isn't it funny how politics sways like the wind? You can't trust anybody around Washington, D.C., can you? We're going to talk about the shutdown looming and what Schumer just said. Also, we're going to discuss what Trump just announced. I thought this was a phenomenal idea. I told you I think we're overtaxed. I think we should get rid of property tax. I think that we should get rid of most of income tax, go to a tariff-based system, go to a flat tax or a consumer tax system. Well, Trump just kind of started that first process, and I think there's no way. I know the Democrats and even some of the rhinos will try to spin this, but there's no way that you can say this is not a good deal. We're going to talk about Trump's new plan that he just proposed. Also, we're going to talk about the threats on conservatives. You know, we talked about how dangerous it is across the world, but we cannot get over the fact that it's not safe here in America still. We're going to talk about some of the things that just took place with people who are willing to speak their mind when it comes to conservative views. And I think we need to make sure that we're really talking about this, because part of, making our cities safe again, making America safe again, is the fact that we have to get everybody on the same page. We're going to discuss some of that. And then lastly, we're going to discuss what USDA and FDA and RFK is doing now under his leadership and under a Trump administration. A few things are changing about your food, and this is for the best. Let's dive into these stories and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here. We humbly ask that you subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We ask that you please comment below. Tell us what your thoughts are. Tell us, okay, yes, I agree, I don't agree, and kind of elaborate, because what happens is when we talk amongst the comment section, it helps us gain wisdom, gain a better common sense approach that maybe I missed or maybe someone else missed, which of course helps us raise our family in this crazy world that we live in. Now let's jump into these stories. First, let's talk about this new proposal by Trump, and I think this is a huge proposal. It came out that Trump proposes that there be no income tax on anyone under $150,000 earning per household. I think every income should not be taxed. I think there's better ways to do this, but let's just talk about what he just said. Trump proposes a tax-free income for those earning under $150,000. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had revealed that President Donald Trump's aim to implement a policy that with no taxes would be applied to individuals earning less than $150,000 annually. This proposed is part of the broader discussion of tax reform, in which considerations like external revenue taxes and fund government operations based on traditional versions of taxation that we actually implemented back for years and years and years previous to this new way of governing, since we started the Fed, since we started big bureaucracy. Let's go back to ways we had it. Now, I believe we should get rid of tax wholeheartedly. And then I told you I believe that we should look at some kind of like a flat tax or implement some kind of consumer tax. Now, flat tax, I think you should have brackets of maybe no more than 10%, and then it goes down from there, especially with the balanced budget initiative. And that's why I think that if Senate and Congress actually worked for us and they balanced the budget and put us in a surplus, I think that should benefit the American people. Bam. I mean, that would make us want to elect these people back to office. It would give them approval ratings like never before. But until then, I believe that you should start laxing taxes. And this is one of those things where Democrats can't say, well, Trump is just trying to give tax breaks to the richest among us. Trump's trying to help the rich. He just proposed $150,000 annual salary or less. Now, $100,000 to $150,000, that's a lot of money still. But in this world that we live in, most people that make $150,000 or less would be considered, either lower working, middle, or upper middle class families. And with the cost of everything. Now, I will say this. The new survey shows that gas, mortgage rates, and inflation has went down under Trump. Now, there's a long ways to go because we have a lot of things to fix. But if we could do a tax break, not just a break, but a tax, get rid of income tax for Americans that are making $150,000 or less, do you realize that's a 20, 30, 40% increase in their salaries? I mean, do you realize that? Think about it. Think about what you bring home and think about that $200 or $300, $400 that comes out, that $500 or $600 that comes out every 2 weeks or every month. Think how nice that would be to have that back in your check. Not only would it boost the economy because people would spend money, but hopefully people would build their savings up and get out of debt. Right now we're under record debt for our nation and record debt for consumers. Now, that's not Trump's fault. He's only been president for a few months. This goes back to, what? The last administration and really the last 50 years of bad policy. So I think this is a great push, and I honestly cannot see how Democrats or rhinos or anybody would push against this. Now, what they're going to say is, well, you're going to hurt the people because ultimately it's going to make inflation go up because taxes will go up or government spending will go up. Well, again, this is also the Democrats who government spent like crazy, and the GDP was really propped up by the government. So they can't use that argument either. But what it will do is this, and this is where I want to make sure we understand. When you say I'm going to take less tax from people, that means we have to cut our spending. If we keep spending like maniacs, like we're doing in this country, Republicans and Democrats, and you're taking in less money, that means you still are going to build up more deficit. So I do love this idea. I love the fact of cutting taxes on the lower class, middle class, and upper middle class. And then I think you need to raise it on up and get it to anybody under $1 million. And then, again, all the way up to where you don't tax income earners. Because income earners are the ones that are working each and every day to provide for other Americans. If we really want to be sustainable and independent, less government intervention in our life is better. And the less tax that we get on us is better. So I actually like this plan, and I honestly can't see how anybody can stand against this plan and what he's proposing. Name one family making under $150,000 that would not want to keep their taxes. I think they would end up being a Trump supporter for sure. Now let's move on to the next hurdle. And I think this is actually one of the best things. I thought Clint Russell said it best. And Clint Russell's libertarian. I mean, he voted for Trump, but to be honest with you, he's probably not the biggest Trump supporter. But I love what he said. He says, so in the last 24 hours in a meltdown, Chuck Schumer says that the CR won't pass the Senate. The DEMS will own the shutdown. Massey's no vote didn't matter because he raised $200,000 towards his reelection. Massey gets boosted and the government gets shut down. What a joyous conclusion to all of this. And I agree with him because I told you yesterday I was kind of against the fact of spending extra money. We shouldn't be spending extra money. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, it was a clean CR bill. Words have impact. So when they say it's a clean CR bill, yes, that means it didn't have a lot of pork in it to spread out to the states. That's a great thing. But clean CR bill did not mean that it did not spend extra money. It covers obligations plus $400 billion. So it still spent money like a crazy maniac. I told you, I think that this was a wrong way of approach to where we wanted government cuttings, not extra spending to get us to the next government cuttings. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But it's amazing how it's turned because remember last year, the Republicans were the ones shutting down the government. Now, I'll be honest with you. I believe we need a government shutdown. As a conservative, libertarian who did support Trump, I believe we need a government shutdown. Why? Because we've got to get our crap in order. You ever heard someone say, get your house in order or it's going to fail? That's what we've got to do. We've got to get our house in order. If we do not, we will not make it. I love what Chamath Palihapitiya said from All In. He said, all these people that are complaining about Doge and what Elon Musk is doing, how they're hating this man, do they realize the money that they're getting from the government? The fact of where they're living and what they're getting and not living in squalor and living in the freest country in the world, no matter if you say anything about Americans, Democrats or Republicans, you are still living in the most free country in the world, America. They said, if we don't fix our budget, we will go bankrupt and we will put ourselves in a massive depression. He said, so what I don't understand is all these people that are hating us wanting to quit spending money as a government. It blows our mind because when you actually look at the bearing of it, if we do not cut, we will be bankrupt. And therefore, you will have no money coming from the government. Therefore, your money will be worthless. So you better pay attention to what's actually going on. See, the talking point shows how bad the world is and how bad America's getting treated with tariffs and how America's economy is failing. It's actually not. The market has been floated up because of government spending. So it correcting, it's actually getting back down to where it should be. GDP in America's economy should not be run by the flipping government. We should not be invested in the stock market. That's for private businesses. That's for equity companies. That's for other means of private businesses, not the government. So a correction in the stock market is not absolutely a bad thing. It's been inflated too much. Now that being said, the help needs to come to Main Street. Well, the tax relief for $150,000 or under That is Main Street economics. That is helping Main Street economics way more than it's helping Wall Street execs, because most of those are making way more than $150,000. So you're seeing now the government is getting blamed. So now you're seeing the government shutdown is going to get blamed on the Democrats, which is kind of funny because they were all against it last year when Biden was president. But I think it actually could be funny. And I think it could benefit Trump, because Trump now gets to say, well, look, the government is doing better, we're saving money, and they wouldn't pass a bill to keep our government open. So even though I was not for the CR, I think it actually could benefit the conservatives and Trump more than it does the Democrats. Now, you know, in the Senate, you need a 60 threshold. Now, here's what I don't want to happen. Republican senators and Republican congressmen and Trump, please do not kowtow to the Democrats. The ball is in your court. It makes you, I mean, like Clint Russell said, you really come out smelling like a rose in all this. Do not give in to any wants that they want to get the threshold of votes. If they want to shut down the government, let them shut it down, or either let them sign this CR bill. Not for the CR bill. To be honest with you, I think we still spent way too much money, but I think it looks better on Trump and the conservatives and, of course, Republicans and all, that we don't do anything to negotiate this bill anymore. Either they shut it down or they vote for the bill that Trump wanted. I think it actually kind of comes out benefiting Trump through all this. And again, as someone who supports Massey, because I do believe he is a staunch conservative, he actually came out smelling like a rose, because to be honest with you, it looks like he's going to win this district overwhelmingly. It's going to be hard for anybody to beat him, especially because people have, I mean, pretty much coalesced around him, and I think it makes him look even stronger. So it may be a win-win in this whole situation, and Schumer and the Democrats look like trash. What's so funny, if you go to every Senate and congressman that's a Democrat, and they're all getting their talking points, just scroll through. I mean, just scroll through Twitter and look what they said. It's like copy and paste. It's so false. And the way they look at this is, they're not serving their people. Most Senate and Congress are not, but it's funny because every one of them had the same talking points. It shows how corrupt these parties are. Now I want to move on to something kind of serious. This is where we have to pay attention because, again, as someone who loves speaking and talking to you about my opinion, I don't get a lot of death threats. I mean, I've had a lot of people get mad and they'll say stuff, but you know, it is what it is. But for bigger players in these fields, they're getting attacked. I want you to listen just to a few. Judge Tanya Chutkan orders that all the doxing of Doge employees be released. Now you tell me why that makes sense. You know what she wants to do? She wants to threaten them like the Supreme Court got threatened. She wants to threaten them like other conservative influencers got threatened. What's so funny is a lot of these Doge employees, Elon Musk said he's fixing to double the number of Doge employees, by the way. But what's so funny is a lot of these Doge employees are Silicon Valley and brilliant individuals, but most of them probably are not conservative. They look at things in liberty and freedom. So I think it's funny that this judge, these judges have way too much power. I'm sorry, people. The judicial side of government has way too much power. I think they should be interpreting the law. They should be interpreting the law and trying to understand the law more than they're actually setting policy. And a lot of these judges rule and make laws, and I think it's a wrong approach. But that's not what the story's about. But I want you to listen to what this says. It says she wants to dox all Doge employees where everybody knows, even after death threats received by Elon Musk and his personnel that's already been on there, and also the attacks on the Tesla showrooms. This is insane. The left is trying to terrify Doge and their employees to either quit or to dox them to cause danger to their family. Now, the person that shared that was Nick Sorter. I want you to listen to what happened to Nick Sorter just a few days ago. It says, both my dad and my sister were swatted tonight. A dozen cops attempted to kick my dad's door in at gunpoint. This is literally terror, and the FBI should treat it as such. What is happening is when they get doxxed and when people know who they are, they start trying to go after conservatives or influencers or people who just want freedom. Again, like I told you before, people like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, and some of these commentators, they're not actually conservatives. If you listen to their talk and you listen to their lingo, and they're not representing Christian conservatism, they're just wanting freedom and liberty. So they're getting doxxed and told off. And actually, for most people, especially like people like me, it actually makes me more passionate about my thought pattern than scared. And I think that's for most influencers or most people who are in this field of trying to share information. Another judge tried to block President Trump to revoking security clearance to this law firm that basically hated him and tried to start this whole Russia collusion thing. And Trump said, I don't really care. We're going to keep fighting them. See, when we have someone in leadership that's willing to fight, I think it helps other people willing to stand up too. And what do I mean by that? You have the richest man in the world who is doing this for free. You have another billionaire who is president. You have Howard Lutnick. You have RFK. You have this whole cabinet of people that does not need your money. Unlike the congressmen and senate that rob your money. Unlike these judges that still they get money each and every check. They make sure they cash their payroll. However, all these people that's actually in the Trump administration, like 70-80% of them are uber rich that does not need money from the government. They don't need your handouts. So I love the fact that they're willing to stand up. And when they're willing to stand up, I think it opens the door for more people to stand up alongside. So I think this is a very good thing. Now, the sad thing is you have judges that are trying to expose and threaten people who are in this space. Now, tell me this. What if all of a sudden some of these influencers get doxxed and all of a sudden someone actually does something to them? Well, can we not hold those judges accountable for doing it? Think about that now. That's what I'm saying. If we're going to let these judges open and aggressively attack people like Elon Musk and his team, Doge and their team, influencers and their team, if something happens to them, what should happen to the judge that released the information? I honestly believe we should go after them for being an accessory because they opened the door for this to take place. You know, there's the old threadbare cliche, fight fire with fire. We have to be willing to make the hard decisions, to do the hard things, to play the ball correctly. Just like this negotiation with the shutdown. Let Chuck Schumer shut it down. It only benefits really conservatism because then we don't spend the money. It shuts down the government so it looks bad on the Democrats so they're not paid. People are not paid and they're furloughed. While Trump is trying to give tax relief to people making under $150,000, the government is just now trying to shut down the bill that actually pays the federal employees. I think it's absolutely an oxymoronic situation. So we need to let this take place. So this is where Republicans have to get a backbone. Johnson has to get a backbone. Trump has to make sure that he doesn't listen to all the people around him that's trying to influence him. He needs to keep strong and do what he told the American people he's going to do, like the $150,000 tax relief. I think that's huge. And then you need to bring impeachment charges against these judges who are not actually being judges. They're trying to rule from the bench. They're trying to make law from the bench. That is not what judges were supposed to do. One judge is trying to stop the president from giving security clearances to someone who hates him. Now, one judge can supersede a president? Help me understand that. One judge can make the Secretary of Defense do a retraction? That's what they're trying to do. One judge can make USAID $2 billion go to corruption and fraud, and then the Supreme Court back them. So then you're saying all these judges have more power than our president. Does that make sense? Did 77 million people vote for those judges? Mm-mm. So this is where you need to come in and say, we're going to play hardball. You want to do that? We're going to wrap you up in court. We're going to prosecute you for doxing these people if something happens. And we're going to make sure that you get impeached. That's how you fight fire with fire. Now let's move on to the last discussion. And this is one I'm very passionate about because I want your food system to not be broken. I want us to be healthier. Well, there's some good strides to that. Listen to this. RFK urges big food to remove artificial dyes. Now, I don't want urges. I want him to say, I want to make them. And I think this is where we have to pay attention. I want hard line situations where you say, you know what? I'm not urging you to take the dyes out. I'm telling you to take the dyes out. Listen to this. This is HHS Secretary Kennedy has engaged with major food companies like Kellogg's, Smucker's, and General Mills, demanding the removal of artificial food dyes from their products. Now listen to this. Help me understand. Why do we want to support these companies that are trying to hurt us and harm us by putting trash chemicals in our food? It says, this initiative allows the FDA recent ban on red number 3 that aims towards the GRAS, the generally recognized as safe loophole. What it is all this junk goes into a loophole that has been put in by lobbyists that they can float these chemicals in your food and not get in trouble for it. It says, this allows the companies to self-affirm the safety of food ingredients without FDA review. Now think about that for a second. What did I tell you for Mississippi? If I wanted to sell eggs or something like that at a farmer's market, I'd have to have the government come in and check my chickens and eggs and where they live. I can't sell raw milk here in Mississippi. So you're telling me these food companies that are trying to make money, that are trying to put artificial stuff in their food, what you're saying is through this loophole, this is what this loophole does. it allows them to self-inspect their food. Now think about that for a second. That means you have an inspector that the Kellogg's, Smuckers, or whomever pays. They're an employee of theirs, and that employee has to be the one to say, okay, our food is safe or not safe. Well, if his job is paid for by the people that he considers food safe or not safe, do you think he's going to say this food is not safe? Do you think he's going to say we're going to ban this food? Because I imagine he wouldn't keep his job for long, would he? That's why I say the inspector generals that work for the same cabinet positions at party and same government, corruption situations that they're supposed to be auditing, if they work for the hand that feeds them, do you think they're going to bite it? Doubtful. So why do we allow these companies to self-regulate themselves? That's funny. If that's the case, then let me self-regulate myself. Let Americans come to my house and be able to buy eggs and milk, and you stay out of my business. No, okay, so there's the difference. If you want less regulation for them and let Americans buy what they want to buy with all the trash chemicals in it, then you leave my food system alone and let me be able to sell to whomever I want to. But no, they want to attack the small guy and let these other ones go because the lobbyists push them. So I love the fact that RFK is saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to close this loophole. Now, I hope he does. But the food and the pharma lobbyists are some of the biggest ever. There's only like 15 providers of most of the food that Americans eat. 15 providers. All over America, there's only 15 major corporations that provide that food. So that's going to be a big fight, but I do think it's moving in the right direction. I want you to listen to a few more stories from the FDA and the USDA. Listen to this. Secretary Brooke Rollins with the USDA says food stamps will no longer be able to buy foods with poison and artificial chemicals. Food stamps are the largest part of the USDA budget. They are taking these food stamps and spending them on Coke, sugary snacks, and candy, and that's got to change. That is a game changer. Because you know why? Because if we as Americans are giving our tax dollars, if the government is taking our tax dollars and then turn around and giving our money to people who are in need, I have no problem helping people in need. I think that's the church and Christians and non-profits' jobs, not the government. But I digress. If the government's going to give money to people, then I think the food stamps, the EBTs, and all this help should be to help people get out of poverty, to help them get healthier. And so let's let those EBT cards and those food stamps not support chemicals and all this junk food. Why don't we let it support local farms? Why don't we let it support local healthy crops? Non-GMO goods. That's what we need. Most people that are on food stamps, they said 80% of the food stamps that are being put out are paying for garbage food. Why don't we change that? And I think this is a good move. Again, under RFK's leadership and under the USDA, under this person. And that doesn't mean she's, everything's perfect in the USDA and FDA. It is not, by far. But these are both good moves. And I love the fact of the beef tallow move. I love the fact of getting back to holistic diets. All those things are good. RFK said something and it went nuts the other day. People went crazy. But he said a lot of times the reason people are staying sick is not because of the sickness that are going around, the outbreaks that are going around, and how we need more medicine for it. He said if we would just learn to clean up our diets and get healthier, walk, move, exercise, and eat right, he said our diets would mostly fix our sicknesses. That is truth. That's how it's been forever. It's just we've been so indoctrinated the last 60, 70 years of our life to think that no, medicine's the only thing that does it. And in our lazy, lackadaisical life with artificial chemicals going in our food and living our life completely in front of screens and being lethargic, nothing's wrong with that. No, everything is wrong with that. Get up and move, exercise, eat right, and I promise you, you're going to see your health get better. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Simple common sense. It's kind of like budgeting. If you make this much and you spend less, then you will have more money at the end of the month. Simple economics. Guys, let me know your thoughts on all these stories. This was one of my favorite 24-hour periods. Yes, there's some things like the doxing is big, but every one of these situations could play wise in the people of conservatism, of Trump and his administration, and of Republicans, if they have a backbone, if they fight fire with fire, if they learn to stay strong and staunch. Let the governments own the shutdown. Let the Democrats own the shutdown. And then you win out in the long run. Trump, go ahead and cut the taxes for $150,000, because there's no American that would say, no, we want the Democrats to keep taxing us because we believe that's the smart thing. There's not anybody doing that, especially if they're making $150,000. This could be a game changer when it comes to some of these things. Guys, let me know your thoughts. I do want to shut down, but I think it's funny that the Democrats have to own the shutdown more than Republicans. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.